Many people think that the EU is Europe, and there is almost an equal sign between the two. But in fact, there are still a considerable number of countries in Europe that have not joined the European Union. Norway is one of the non-EU member states in Europe. This country is surrounded by EU member states. It is neither mutually exclusive with European countries, nor is it like Russia because of institutional reasons. Exclusion from Europe and America. So, why on earth did he not join the EU? Joining the EU is of great significance to European countries. Although many European countries are known as developed countries, they are only developed countries among small countries. Their individual influence is actually very small, and their overall strength is not even comparable to that of other big countries. Therefore, European countries established the European Union, and joining the European Union in a general form can strengthen their influence. In addition, because of their small land area and small population, in order to be able to develop, they must be closely linked, exchange resources, and give full play to their respective strengths in production and manufacturing. A complex product can have each country responsible for one of its components. Politically, due to the excessive influence of the United States in Europe, it is necessary grouped together to develop to curb the spread of American influence in Europe. The area of EU member states now accounts for more than half of Europe, and their influence is also very large in Europe. If any country does not join the EU, it will not appear to be in a group, especially for small countries. The feeling of being out of group will be more obvious. So to sum up, it seems that a small country located in Europe has no reason not to join the EU, or it is very necessary to join. However, there are still many countries in Europe that have not joined the EU, including Norway, and even Norway is not counted as a potential member state to any extent. So why don't Norwegians want to join the EU? In 1972 and 1994, Norway held referendums on joining the European Union, in which the vast majority of Norwegians participated, but they failed both times. In 1970, there was also a people's movement against the common market in Norway, which greatly influenced the outcome of the subsequent referendum. Over the years, many organizations have investigated the willingness of Norwegians to enter Europe, but the results show that they are very disgusted with this matter. At the end of May 2022, a Norwegian investigation agency conducted an investigation into the willingness of Norwegians to enter Europe. The investigation lasted a week. The survey results show that among the 1,001 people who participated in the survey, 48.8% clearly opposed their country's accession to the European Union. 16% could not answer, while only 35.3% supported it, and about half opposed it. Compared with 53.3% in 1972 and 52.5% in 1994, this is not much lower. The number of supporters is the highest in a year or two, but the growth rate is very slow. But compared with 46.5% in 1972 and 47.8% in 1994, this figure is a huge difference. Although the survey results are not the same as the referendum, it can still show that Norwegians are not willing to enter Europe to some extent. Norway is a country on the edge of Europe. It is a bitter and cold land in northern Europe. Its land area is only more than 385,000 square kilometers. Moreover, their land is mostly mountains, plateaus, glaciers, lakes, and swamps, and their population is very small, only more than 5 million. In terms of objective conditions, foreign cooperation is actually necessary, but Norway has not done so. Norway has the conditions to join the European Union because the overall strength of this country is not strong and does not have much international influence. But Norwegians are quite rich and wealthy. Norway's per capita GDP reached $38,100 at the beginning of the century. By 2021, Norway's GDP had more than doubled to $8,9,200. It can be said that its per capita GDP and development level have always been among the top in Europe. So Norwegians are simply unwilling not to join the EU, and Norwegians are gradually finding that they are more comfortable not joining the EU. There are many reasons why more than a dozen European countries have not joined the EU. Some feel that there is no need to join, some are not enough to join, and some are due to political and religious factors. First of all, The main reason why Norway does not join the EU is that it must follow the rules to join the EU. The EU has regulations on fisheries, oil and gas production, etc. The Norwegians feel that these regulations may interfere with their sovereignty, so they have always rejected joining the EU. Many countries in Europe are not developing very well, and some countries have experienced recession. Fisheries, agriculture, and other fields have always been Norway's advantages and their lifeblood. If those high-quality resources are restricted by the EU or shared with everyone, it will inevitably have an impact on Norway and lower Norway's development level. Although Norway has not joined the EU, it has increased its ties with many European countries through other ways and means. Norway has always advocated expanding pan-European cooperation and strengthening cooperation with the EU in military, economic, and other fields. Since the mid-1990s, Norway has maintained contacts with the European Union as a member of the European Economic Area. Although it is not a member of the European Union, Norway is a member of NATO and Schengen. NATO, needless to say, Schengen countries are all European countries, and border checkpoints are canceled between major member states. As long as they hold valid documents from major member states, they can move freely. These international organizations are dominated by European countries and are highly overlapping. In today's context, these international organizations dominated by European countries have no particularly strict boundaries to some extent. So not joining the EU has not had much impact on Norway. In the eyes of people, Norway has not been a member of the European Union, but it enjoys most of the benefits of the EU. For a long time, Norwegians have enjoyed this convenience. They not only enjoy the convenience, but also are not restricted by various rules and have not paid relevant fees. It can be said that why not? When Britain had a strong idea of leaving the European Union, some British people regarded Norway and the European Union as their goals and role models and called it the Norwegian model. In this Russian-Ukrainian war, Norway did not less together with European and American countries against Russia. Norway has previously sanctioned Russia, and these actions further show that Norway is already a largely unknown EU member state. Adding or not depends only on whether the Norwegians are willing to accept EU rules. In addition, we can also discuss this issue from historical and geographical factors. We all know that Norway and Iceland are not members of the EU, while Britain entered the EU and now Brexit. All three countries are on the periphery of Europe, across the sea from the continent. Therefore, the willingness to collide and integrate with European countries is not high, and I am used to this sense of independence. Many European countries have a small area and a relatively single nation. There have been many wars in history. In the two world wars, Europe fought the fiercest. In addition, Europe has no big country, which is destined to be difficult for Europe to develop together. In fact, we know that the slightly larger countries in Europe are almost Britain, France, and Germany, but no one has an absolute advantage in the size and national strength of the three countries. In the past, Germany and France and Britain have tried to jointly build some aircraft carriers, but in the end, they have no results. Because who will lead this issue is always a stumbling block. There will be a lack of conditions for cohesive development in all aspects. Euroscepticism means that Euroscepticism has always been popular in Europe, and a considerable number of Europeans are vigilant or even not optimistic about European integration. There is bound to be opposition to such a thing as Brexit. Politicians and political parties in some European countries are suspicious of Europe, including Norway. There are many parties in Norway, including the Progressive Party, the Liberal Party, the Socialist Left Party, the Labour Party, the Centre Party, the Conservative Party, etc. Among them, the Central Party, the Socialist Left Party, the Liberal Party, and other parties all hold different attitudes towards European integration. They all oppose Norway's accession to the European Union. In the past few years, European and American countries have been fighting everywhere and have begun to bite themselves. The issue of refugees and economic development has become a very headache for the European Union. We all know that although European countries are rich, they are small after all, and their ability to resist risks is relatively poor. Under the impact of these problems, the public security level of many European countries has also deteriorated, and the economy has declined. I'm afraid a small country like Norway doesn't want to be in trouble with the EU at this time. The economic recession in Europe and the United States in the past 2 years, including some other pressures, has been very serious. If you join the EU at this time, many rules will have to be followed by the EU. Therefore, on similar issues, Norway has calculated an account. This is not the best time, and it may not be possible to share happiness. On the contrary, joining the EU requires difficulties. It is better to be free.